Very good. Thank you very much. So, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for choosing this session. I know you've got a lot of choices here. Hope you've been enjoying the event so far. As you heard, my name's Richard Newman. I'm the author of the new book, just came out a couple of weeks ago on Lift Your Impact. And I know that at this event, you're going to be speaking about a lot of things that are particular for your line of work. Today, in this session, I'm going to take you slightly away from that about how to stay human in a digital world for peak performance mindset. Now, what is this all about? So firstly, this is an area that I've been working on for a very long time now. I've had the great privilege of going and working with people all the way around the world for the last couple of decades, with people from different countries and backgrounds, all sorts of different industries, people from students up to CEOs and leadership teams, and people across Europe, the Middle East, Asia, America, and Australia to try out these techniques and find out what's proven to work to make sure that you can perform at your best every single day. And not just me, but also my team as well, where we go and we have about 2,000 event bookings like this every year where we go and put this into action. But just to give you some idea about why mindset is so important to me, to my clients, and also for you, I'd like you to think back to 2019. So just think about this for a moment. This was my business model in 2019. So 2019, my business meant 70% of our work, because we work internationally, 70% required us getting on an aeroplane to fly around the world to go to events like this and speak, and 100% of our work involved being in an enclosed area with a large group of people. That was 2019. So as you can imagine, that didn't go too well in 2020. We got to the end of February, beginning of March. Everything we do as a business was cancelled. Not just cancelled, but made illegal. We couldn't get on a plane. We couldn't meet with people. We were finished. And people in my company were coming to me saying, we are going out of business. We're going to be bankrupt very soon. We have to refuse to pay our taxes. We need to take out big government loans. It's the only way to survive. And people genuinely worried about how they would pay their mortgage. And so I decided I would ask a different question. Rather than thinking, how soon are we finished? I decided to ask this question, which is, what if it's possible for us to turn our biggest challenge into our biggest opportunity? What if we can find a way to serve people right now when they need help more than ever? And as a result of that, we completely shifted our business model to go and help our clients worldwide and help them virtually, of course. And as a result of that, we didn't go out of business. We grew 36% year on year. And so the year that was supposed to be our worst year ever actually ended up being our best year ever and the most profitable year we'd ever had, because we decided to shift our mindset. So I'm here to make sure that for all of you, no matter what challenges you may face, whether you face challenges in the economy or politics or the war that's happening or other things happening within your industry, I want to make sure you've got such a strong mindset that you can get the results you need long term. So what are the three big challenges that people face right now? We've been asking our clients the last few years, and let's see if maybe this resonates with you. Three big challenges we've noticed that people have, maybe you, maybe people in your team. The first one has been stress. The amount of people going out of work, leaving work because of needing a sick day for being stressed has gone up by more than 40% in just the last couple of years. People are feeling utterly overwhelmed, and you might be feeling this way as well. You've had a brilliant event the last couple of days, and maybe you did the virtual event the 2 days before that, and you get given all this information and ideas and all these strategies that are up on the screen, and then you realize you've missed out on, because you've been here, you've missed 4,000 emails that you need to look at, and you've got to get home and you need to look after your family. There's all sorts of things going on that are piling on top of people, making them feel incredibly stressed out. The second thing that people have been feeling a lot the last couple of years is feeling loneliness. So we've gone from a place where everybody used to go into a building to go and do their job, and suddenly everybody is now mostly working from home. We've got clients who have these big, expensive offices and nobody's coming into the building. But if they do go into the building, people are still feeling intensely lonely. They feel like they just don't have the connection with people they used to. Maybe you can relate to this as well. You might find that a lot of your conversations, they feel transactional. They don't feel like a real, true friendship or relationship that's being built. And the third key challenge we found our clients have had these last couple of years is a lack of purpose. So maybe you found in your work that things have been going well the last couple of years. Maybe you're not feeling that stressed or lonely. You feel connected, but maybe you just feel that you're showing up to work, doing something, and you don't really know why you're doing it anymore. So many people these last few years have really questioned, what is my purpose? What am I really doing this for? What impact am I going to leave beyond just getting my paycheck? And so we wanted to make sure that we could overcome these three areas for people with three key elements that I can help you with, and I'll start you with today. So the first key element is to make sure you've got this rock solid, powerful mindset. So you can be a rock in the storm, no matter what's happening around you, making sure that you can thrive no matter what. Secondly, making sure that in your relationships, your interactions, the people you work with, your friends, your family, you're feeling a deeper sense of connection from how you communicate, and even with your clients and your stakeholders and your suppliers, having this deeper connection. And the third piece to have is a sense of purpose, a sense that you're going forward on a journey that feels worthwhile in some way. And so I put all of these three elements into this book to help people, which came out just a couple of weeks ago, because I wanted to make sure I made a real difference for people. Mindset, connection, and future. And I'm going to give you about 10 minutes on each as we go through today's section. So the first thing I wanted to talk to you about is, how do you lift your mindset? Now, this is where it's going to start to get interactive. There may be some of you there thinking, this is going to be an easy session to come to after lunch. I can just sit here, check my emails. He won't know. But now it's going to start to get interactive. So in a moment, I have a quiz question for you, and you're going to go and find somebody, and you're going to ask them this quiz question to see if you can get the answer. So here's the question. Going back to around 2003, the Max Planck Institute created a test where they took people out into a forest and they gave them a GPS tracker to see how far they could go. And they said, you've got 6 hours to go as far as you can possibly go away from where you've started. 6 hours to do this. Now, anybody here ever run a marathon? Any marathon runners in the room? Yeah, a couple of people. So I've run the London Marathon a couple of times. And if you're running a marathon, it's 26.2 miles. And you're probably aiming to do it in about 4 hours. That's what most people aim for. They had 6 hours. And this tracker, to make sure that people knew where they were headed, they were incentivized to go further than anybody else for 6 hours. So my question for you, and for this one, you're going to stand up, you're going to go and find someone, ideally not the person sitting next to you. That's too easy. We need to network at this event. There's some of you looking at me like, I am not standing up. So you're all going to stand. You're all going to go and find someone that's not sitting next to you. And you're going to say to them, how far do you think they managed to go in 6 hours? Okay, so everybody up on your feet, go find someone new. Everybody up on your feet, go find someone new. How far did they go in 6 hours?
Sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah. Oh, sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah.
Yes, I can. Doubt, better leave. I'm running with this plan. Pull me, grab us in the bucket, can't have me. I'll be the president one day. January 1st. Oh, you like that gossip? Like you the one drinking what gossip.com. Now I got a word for your tongue. How many Rolling Stones you want? Yeah, I got a brand new spirit speaking and it's done. Woke up on the side of the bed like I won. Talk like the wind in my chest to that sun. G5 in the US to Taiwan. Now who can say that? I wanna play back. Mama knew I was a needle in a haystack. A Bugatti boy, plus Maybach. I got a feeling it's a rap. ASAP.
Okay, stay where you are. Stay standing. Stay standing. Stay where you are and stay standing. I want to do a quick quiz check-in on this. So the question was, how far did they get in 6 hours? If you're sitting down already, you're going to miss out. You need to be standing for the answer. So if you think they went in 6 hours more than 60 miles, take a seat. If you think they went more than 60 miles, in kilometers would be, let's say 75. If you think they went more than 75 kilometers, take a seat. Okay, if you think they went more than 50 kilometers in 6 hours, take a seat. If you think they went more than 40 kilometers, take a seat. Okay, if you think they went more than 30 kilometers, take a seat. So I'm just going to check in with you at this point. They had 6 hours to do it. Average walking pace is around 6 kilometers per hour. They're going for 6 hours. If you think that they went more than 25 kilometers, take a seat. Okay, if you think they went more than 20 kilometers, take a seat. If you think they went more than 15 kilometers, take a seat. If you think they went more than 10 kilometers, take a seat. Some people are like, I'm never sitting down again. If you think they went more than 8 kilometers, take a seat. 7 kilometers? 6? 5? 4? This guy's shaking his head like, I will never sit down. How far do you think they went? 3 kilometers is the correct answer. Give them a huge round of applause. Take a seat. Everybody take a seat. So they had 6 hours. They're incentivized to go as far as they possibly can. The average distance they went was 3 kilometers. 3 kilometers. Why would this be the case? This is what happened. They're in the forest. They've got this GPS tracker. It's not a guide. It's a GPS tracker. And they're told, go as far as you possibly can. And most people are doing this. They're just kind of going, hang on, I've been here before. I think I've been here before. Have I been here before? And they're doing this over and over again. The average distance they got was 3 kilometers. I'm sure you felt this at some point as well, where you feel like you're working and working and working, and 3 years go by and you look up and you think, I feel like I'm still where I was 3 years ago. You can do that after 5 years or 10 years. But there was one person, just one, who managed to go 4 times further than anybody else. SM over here. What do you think? What was different on the day that they did it compared to everybody else? What did SM do that nobody else did? So how did they manage to go straight? They don't have a compass. They followed the North Star. So on the day that all the blue lines did it, it was cloudy. The one day where the clouds parted, this person was doing it at nighttime. They could see the North Star and they guided themselves based on this. So would you like to do this in the future in your career? What if you could go 4 times further than anybody else in the same space of time, simply because you know which direction you're heading and you can always stay on track? So let's try this out. On the count of 3, I'm going to ask you to point north. Wherever you think is north from the current situation where you're sitting, and you've been turned around a bit coming inside the mall here. So on the count of 3, point north. Where do you think north is? 1, 2, 3, go! See? There's a couple of people got it right. So some people sort of pointing off over here. There's a couple over there. There's one person pointing on themselves. That's not right. So north is actually directly over in this direction. A couple of you got it. Well done. Great. So that's north within this building. But what is north for you in your career? Well, this is how we work it out. The way that you figure out your true north so that you can head in the direction that feels meaningful for you is you work out what your top 3 values are. What are the values that you care about, the principles that you care about mostly in your life to guide your day-to-day actions? So what does this mean? To give you an example of this, going back to 2015, there was an experiment done in Germany between Cresswell and Sherman, David Cresswell, David Sherman, using the TRIA social stress test protocol. So just imagine this. People went for what they believed was their dream job interview. And before they went in for the interview, the panel was told this. The panel were told, you must not say yes, you can't nod your head or anything, you can't smile. When this person comes in, you need to sit back, fold your arms, shake your head, and whenever they speak, you say, not good enough. And then halfway through the interview, they said to them, please stand up, and we want you to immediately give a presentation on why you should get the job and nobody else. And then partway through the presentation, they'd stop them and say, this is just not good enough. Then they'd say, I now have some maths questions for you, starting with the number 3,697. I want you to minus the number 38 from that number over and over again, out loud, as fast as you can. Go. Faster, 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 faster. And then the person was told to leave the room. So how do you think they're trying to make this person feel during this situation? Just shout it out for me. Stressed, exactly right. They're trying to get them as stressed as possible. Now, the people who went through this experiment, for half of them, they were measuring with them their heart rate, their cortisol, which is the main stress hormone in the body, and their adrenaline. And they measured it before they went in and afterwards. When they came out the other side, for half of them, their heart was beating through their chest, their adrenaline was spiking, their cortisol was spiking, very stressed. But for the other half, there was no significant change, no sense of stress. Why would this be? For half of them, chosen at random, before they went into the interview, they were asked to work out, what are your values? What are your 3 core values that you use to guide your life? And they wrote down a full page about what these values are. Principles they care about, how they've used them to guide important decisions, and they did that for 15 minutes. And by doing that, they gave themselves internal validation. Internal validation. The people who didn't write this down, what do you think they're looking for when they went in there? What are they looking for? External validation, exactly, which was never going to come from this panel that have been told not to give it to them. So if you want to know more about external validation, just think about it this way. Have you ever put a post on Instagram or Facebook, and then 12 minutes later, you've checked it to see how many likes you got? That's looking for external validation, and that's what people are doing day to day these days. So instead, what we need to do is to guide ourselves from our internal values, from our values. So my question for you on this is, well, what are your values? So for this one, you will need a partner. You can stay sitting down, but you will need someone to speak to. So if you can see somebody who's sitting and they're not with somebody else, go find them, and you're going to share with them for just the space of the next minute or so. Ask them, what are your top 3 values that you use to guide your decisions in day-to-day life? I've given you a few examples up here, but you can take any examples that you want. What are the top 3 values you have to guide your day-to-day decisions? So if you're sitting with someone, speak to them. If you're not sitting with someone, I encourage you to stand, go find someone, and share with them what are your top 3 values. Off you go.
When I was 6 years old, I broke my leg. And I was running from my brother and his friends, and tasted the sweet perfume of the mountain grass I rolled down. I was younger then. Take me back to when I found my heart, broke it here, made friends and lost them through the years. And I've not seen the boring fields in so long. I know I've grown, but I can't wait to go home. I'm on my way, driving at 90 down those country lanes, singing to Tiny Dancer, and I miss the way you make me feel. It's real. We watch the sunset over the castle on the hill.
Okay, very good. Thank you for doing that. You can all grab a seat. Great. So just out of interest with this short activity, who came up with at least one value that they really care about? At least one? Okay. Anybody get 3? Who got to 3? Okay, a few people. Great. So I encourage you, this is an activity that is designed to take longer. I'd encourage you this evening, when you get home, just take a page and write for 15 minutes about these values. The other part I didn't mention about the experiment is afterwards, when they left the experiment and they went to the panel who were doing the interview, they said to them, if you had to give the job to someone, who would you give it to? Like, take the names from the list. Who would you give it to? And the people who had written down their values were the people that they would put on that list to give them the job. So not only does it make you feel good about yourself, feel more confident, feel less stressed, but it means you're much more likely to be accepted for the pitch that you've done to your boss, or for the supplier that you want to be working with, or the client you'd like to gain. You're much more likely to do that by guiding yourself through your North Star. The second part that I wanted to dive into, which I've covered in this book, is how to lift your influence. How to lift your influence. Now, there's so many ways that you can use to influence the people around you. Because if you think about having a strong mindset, that's nice, but then you need to interact with other people, and that's where things can start to go wrong sometimes with our mindset. So you need to make sure that you're using all sorts of different areas that you can cover to interact with people, persuade them, and get the results that you're looking for in your day-to-day life and career. So I haven't got time to go into all of them, but I did want to touch briefly on storytelling. The reason being that if you understand how to use story in your day-to-day career, you can take all of your complex ideas and communicate them in a way that's clear, concise, compelling, and influential to get more of the results that you want and deserve in day-to-day life. And so there's one key dynamic that I wanted to point out with storytelling. If you get this right, it transforms all of your day-to-day relationships. And that is simply this. So in a story, we usually have a hero. If you were to come here to the cinema and grab your popcorn, be watching any of the movies that are out at the moment, you'll see this basic story. You have a hero that is facing challenges and they have goals that they want to achieve. But then they meet someone who helps them move away from their challenges and move towards their goals. Just shout out for me if you know what the answer is. What is the archetype, the type of character that they meet that helps them move away from their challenges and towards their goals? Just shout it out. What do you think? A mentor, exactly right. Give this guy a round of applause. Yeah, well done. Excellent. So the mentor helps the hero move away from their challenges and towards their goals. Now, in storytelling, this person is unfortunately pretty much always shown as an old white man with a long white beard. But you don't need to be old, you don't need to be white, you don't need to have a beard. You can be a 5-year-old child and get this to work. So as an example, just shout out the answer. I'm sure you all know this one. What is the name of the mentor in Harry Potter? What's the name of the mentor? Dumbledore, exactly right. Old white man, long white beard. So they didn't go very far from the cliche on this one. Now, importantly, he doesn't fix the problem for Harry. Harry's challenge is Voldemort. And so Dumbledore doesn't come along and say, don't worry, Harry, I'll sort that out. You just study and learn some stuff at Hogwarts. I've got this. He doesn't do that. Instead, he figures out the challenge that Harry has in his life is Voldemort. He wants a world where Voldemort's no longer there. And so he mentors him towards that challenge. What about in Star Wars? Shout out, what's the name of the mentor in Star Wars? Yoda, exactly right. Here he is, proving you can be small and green and still be a mentor. And in the more recent version of the latest trilogy, we had a female mentor hero. So we had Rey being mentored by Princess Leia in that last trilogy. So this hero-mentor dynamic is absolutely critical to your business relationships. And just making sure that you get this one piece right can transform your success in business. In fact, to tell you a quick story on this, there was a company we were working with in London. It was an American company, and they were aiming to build a new building on the bank of the River Thames. The project was worth $800 million. So I guess it's about 800 million euros, something like that. And they were going into the final pitch, and they were in third place out of 3 potential final suppliers. And they said, please come and help us. We worked on this dynamic with them, as well as a couple of other pieces, but this was the piece that fundamentally shifted their ability to have a strong relationship with the people in the room, and they went from third place to first place, winning that project. So I want to make sure that you've understood what this dynamic is like. So to do this, I have a quick quiz for you. To do this one, you need to be upstanding. So everybody up on your feet. You can just stand where you are, but you need to be upstanding for this. I'm going to go through the hero-mentor dynamic. That's it. I'm going to keep the blood flow going for you all because I know it's after lunch and it's a Friday. So hero-mentor. Here's what we're going to do. You're doing a heads and tails competition, so you can vote by putting your hands on your heads or your hands on your tails. So this story, which I'm sure needs no introduction, I'm sure you've all seen it at some point. It's been on every Christmas for the last 20 years. It's always on. So I just want you to guess who is the hero. So if you think the hero is Rose, you place your hand on your heads. If you think the hero is Jack, then you place your hand on your tails. I'll give you 3 seconds to vote. 1, 2, 3, go. Vote, vote, vote. And freeze. If your hand is on your head, stay standing. Everybody else take a seat. If your hand is on your head, stay standing. Everybody else take a seat. Very good. Now, if you're standing, you can put your hands down. I believe you. Good. Great. So I think we lost about half the audience on this one. So sometimes people who've watched this a lot, they think Jack has got to be the hero. Of course he is. He's not the hero. He is the mentor. Now, what does this mean? This story of Titanic, this is not about an iceberg. There was nobody who ever came into one of these movie theaters here with their popcorn, sitting there watching the movie. The iceberg comes up and they go, oh, it's a bit of a twist. It's an iceberg. Like we all knew that was going to happen. So that's not the story of Titanic. The story is about Rose. At the beginning, she has challenges and she has goals. Her challenges are that she feels trapped, and by the end of the movie, she wants to feel free. That's what the movie's about. Jack is the mentor. He always feels free, and he mentors her towards that feeling of being free by the end. And a quick tip, if you want to watch a movie on the weekend and you're thinking, I wonder who the mentor is, the mentor usually dies before the end of the movie, which is the real reason why he can't get on that door in the ocean when there's blatantly room for 3 people on this door. But he can't because he's the mentor. Okay, so second question, stay standing if you are. If you're sitting down, you can play along, but just for fun. So firstly, just to check, who's seen this movie? Who's seen Shawshank Redemption? Okay, most people, great. So if you haven't seen it, just to check in with you, you have Andy Dufresne over here who has been wrongfully imprisoned and he's never been around prison life before. And then you have Red over here, and Red has been in prison for more than 20 years and he's trying to help Andy survive prison life. That's essentially the situation. So if you think that Andy is the hero in this one, then place your hand on your heads. If you think that Red is the hero, you place your hand on your tails. 1, 2, 3, go. And freeze. If your hand is on your head, take a seat. And everyone who remains standing, give these guys a huge round of applause. Well done. Fabulous. You survived the Hero Mentor Challenge. You can take a seat now. Everyone take a seat. Good. So in this story, we've got Morgan Freeman over here who is playing the hero, which is surprising. He's usually playing the mentor. He usually shows up playing God or something like that. But in this story, he's the hero. At the beginning, his challenge is he has no hope. And by the end of the story, he has hope. And so that's what the story is all about. Andy Dufresne mentors everyone in how to stay hopeful. That's the story. If you haven't seen it before, or if you haven't seen it in a while, go and watch it again and you'll get more out of it. So importantly, why have I raised this? The important question is this: which one of these are you going to be in your next meeting? I want you to think genuinely about Monday morning when you're going back to work. Who are you having a meeting with? Maybe your line manager, or maybe a key client or a stakeholder, your team. Maybe you're going to get your team together and talk to them about what you learned at this conference. Which one of these do you need to be in your next meeting? So raise your hand if you're going to be the hero in your next meeting. Raise your hand if you're going to be the mentor in your next meeting. Okay, so we got like 25% going for hero, 75% for mentor. I can tell you the answer you need to go for is mentor, 99% of the time. Unless you are meeting with your mentor, someone who's there to coach you, you need to be the mentor. Whether you're speaking to your boss, your biggest clients, a key stakeholder, or speaking to your team, junior staff, you need to be the mentor. Why is that important? You've got to avoid going into a meeting as the hero. Why is that? Because if you dive into a situation as the hero and you show up there aiming to be the hero for your team, for your boss, for your clients, and so on, how does it make them feel? What do you think? How does that make them feel? What character are they suddenly playing in the story? If you show up as the hero in a story, what does that make them feel that they might be? The villain and maybe who? I think somebody said it. The villain or maybe the victim. So if you go into your family or your friends or your colleagues and you say, I'll fix this, you come in as the hero, they may feel, are you saying that I can't fix this for myself? Like I'm a victim? Or maybe that I'm the villain, that I caused this problem? Is that what you're saying? Then they feel disempowered and disengaged. So you have to make sure instead you're showing up as the mentor. Your client, your team, your manager, your boss, they are the hero. Whoever you're speaking to, if you want to get a good reaction from them, remember they are the hero. They have challenges, they have goals, and you mentor them in the right direction. And when you do that, you become a key person of influence in your organization. So that's one quick piece that we can talk about around influence. Loads more that we could get into. Finally, I wanted to talk to you about lifting your future. Lifting your future. So this is something that is so important, because if you're working on your mindset and you think, okay, I know what my values are, I know my North Star, I'm able to start influencing the people around me. I also find that people get stuck when they feel like they're not making the progress or getting the results that they feel like they deserve. And so there's one key area we can talk about in order to make sure you do get the results that you're aiming for, which comes down to this movie here. Just by a show of hands, I think I've got the right age group here. Who's seen this movie? Who's familiar with this? Great. Okay, fabulous. I was with a group last week. I said, who's seen this movie? 2 hands out of 100. I was like, okay, I'm getting old. So this movie, what's fun about this is that they never intended to make a sequel. This was going to be one movie, just like E.T., which was a big sci-fi sensation in the 1980s and no sequel. That was the plan for this movie too. But they had to make a sequel. In fact, they made 2 sequels. Why is that? Because of something that happens in the final scene. So Doc Brown arrives in the time machine and he says, Marty, you've got to come back with me. And Marty says, where, Doc? And he says, back to the future. Get in the car. And Marty gets in the car and they go and make 2 more movies. But let's just imagine that he hadn't said, get in the car. Imagine if he'd done what most people tend to do at the end of a meeting. They've been talking to their team, their boss, their stakeholders, their clients, and they kind of give a long and confusing message. Let's imagine that he'd said to Marty, hi, Marty, what I need you to do is to come with me for the next 3 or 4 weeks where you're going to be traveling back and forth in time. You're going to be punched in the face. You're going to be shot at. You'll probably have to jump off a building and maybe blow up the space-time continuum, which is going to kill everything that has ever existed. I think Marty would have said, well, I mean, you've got a time machine. I mean, I haven't had breakfast yet. Maybe we could do it next week. Let's just take this offline. Never would have happened. But he didn't. He said, get in the car. Get in the car. Now, why is this relevant for you? If you really want to transform the future for you, for your family, for your organization, for your clients, there are 3 principles that you need to keep in mind, which is to get in the car, by which I mean a commitment, an action, and a routine. These are the 3 elements we've worked on with our clients for decades now to help make sure they create the future that they want and get the results they want long term. So what does this mean? The commitment is something that you think of that is long term. So I encourage you to start thinking about this now. What is something that you would love to achieve within 6 months? So where are we now? We're in May. We're coming up to the beginning of June. Think about something you would love to achieve by the end of this year. What would be really significant? And ideally, you think, well, my values are honesty and compassion and achievement. Where does that send me? What would that be in 6 months or less? Not 10 years, not 20 years, 6 months or less. Something you can drive towards. An action is something that you do immediately and daily in order to move yourself towards this commitment. And then routine is something that gets you back on track when you feel like you just can't go on. So I'll give you an example. This is how I did it a couple of years ago. I mentioned I'd run a marathon. My commitment, I decided, was that I was going to be big, bold, and loud about this. I had never run 5K, and yet I was going to run this marathon being 42.2K. And so the way that I did this is that in the past, I'd actually made commitments to run half marathons, and I'd always given up because I had a bit of an injury and I didn't feel like it, and I wasn't eating the right stuff. And so I thought, forget it, I'm not going to do it. So finally, when I got a place running for a charity that I care about, I thought I have to make my commitment big, bold, and loud. I told everybody. I told my friends. I told my family. I went on Facebook, LinkedIn, my newsletter, everything, saying I am running this marathon. And so I couldn't get out of it. So when I started to feel tired and I started to feel like I was injured, I couldn't go on, I'd made this big, bold, loud commitment to do this. And this is my wife pictured here. We'd both decided to do it together, and I was not going to let her down in this either. Secondly, I then needed an action that I could take every day that would move me in the direction of this goal. And I had less than 6 months to do it. In fact, I'd chosen a goal that was only 20 weeks away. And so I had a 20-week marathon training plan. And I was doing something daily, not 3 days a week like you might do in a training plan, not 4 days a week. Every day I had something written down that I would do, such as what I was going to eat, the amount of sleep I wanted to get, how far I was going to run, doing some stretching, getting a massage, getting anything I needed to change this. And by doing this, if you take an action every single day towards a goal, not Monday to Friday, not 3 days a week, every day, it shifts your identity. And suddenly I went from being sitting on a couch to being a marathon runner. I was doing this daily. The third piece that you need to do, though, is that you need to think about the CAR, the R on car, which is the routine. So I gave myself a routine or a ritual, if you like, that I could use when I just didn't feel like going on. If I didn't feel like doing it anymore. And this was particularly important because the London Marathon happens in April which means you're training all the way through the winter. And I remember waking up once on a February morning where it was thick snow outside, and I thought, I have to run 30 kilometers today, but I don't feel like it. It's really cold, there's snow outside, I'm going to get hurt. And so I had this routine, which was I was raising money largely for Africa, and there's a Shakira song, Waka Waka Africa. And so my routine, if ever I felt like I couldn't go on, I would just sit for a moment, I'd play this song and think about all the people I was helping. And so I thought about it. I then got in my car. I drove to the local gym. I then ran on a treadmill for 3 hours straight just to get through that training piece on that day. So you need a commitment, an action, and a routine that allows you to reconnect with why you started on this journey in the first place. So my question on this one is just very simply, I'd like you to turn to the person next to you. And if you're not sitting next to someone, just turn around and see if you can speak to someone and just think, how will you use this yourself in the next 6 months? I'm sure you've been really inspired by the last few days at this conference. Lots of ideas have come up. Maybe you've got an idea of what you'd like to achieve by the end of 2023. And just turn to the person next to you and say, what is a big commitment you'd like to take and achieve by the end of this year? What is an action that you would be taking daily towards this? And what's a routine that would help you to get there? Just take 30 seconds, turn to the person next to you. How are you going to put this into action? A commitment, an action, and a routine that will keep you on track. Off you go. Okay, just checking in with you because I'm curious. Raise your hand if you've got some sort of commitment you'd like to achieve by the end of this year. Who's got one of those? Fantastic. Anybody manage to think of like an action they could start taking towards it daily? Great, fantastic. And then you can start to be thinking about that routine, something you can do to get you back on track if a few months from now it's not working out. So this was my commitment at the beginning of this session to share with you some insights into this powerful mindset, how to have deeper connection with people and create a purposeful future. Like I mentioned, I put all of this stuff into this book. It's like 20 years worth of proven elements I've been teaching with my clients. But I wanted to give you more than this session because I've flown all the way to Lithuania to speak for 45 minutes. I wanted to make sure I give you more than that in value. So I've got a bunch of free resources for you to follow today's talk. If this inspired you a little bit, if you'd like to go further and deeper, I've got some free resources. So if you have your phone with you, if you just want to grab your phone real quick, I can share with you a whole bunch of resources for you. So firstly, my team and I at Body Talk, we put together a whole bunch of training videos on things we've talked about today and other areas that will help you as well. And so we're going through here, my colleague at the bottom here, this is Alina, who has been a presenter on the BBC for the last 20 years. She's talking there about communication on camera. My colleague Mark up the top there is a voiceover expert, so he's talking about voice and communication. My colleague Charlie on the top right there, talking about mindset, confidence, imposter syndrome, and so on. And my colleague on the bottom right there, Emily, she writes scripts for TV and so on. She's talking there more about storytelling. There's these, and then there's dozens more of these videos. If you want to get a hold of these, it's real simple. All you have to do is just send a quick email to this address. So if you open up your emails, you're welcome to send this now if you'd like to. video@ukbodytalk.com. video@UK, just get the UK bit in the right place, video@ukbodytalk.com. You send a blank email and we will then send you some initial resources, and then twice a month we send you a video, audio recording, and an article to keep you inspired about the areas that we've talked about today. So you can send a quick email to that address. And of course, if you're interested, the book is available basically everywhere you can get a book, hardback, audio, read by me, ebook. And if your company's interested, if you come to me, then we get you 50% off. But you can find it wherever you might want to. And lastly, if you want to stay connected with me after today, find me on LinkedIn. It's the main place that I exist on the internet. So you can find me there. I've got like 60-second videos, inspirational tips that I share on LinkedIn, Richard Newman Body Talk. And if you'd like to get the first 25 pages of this book for free, then you just go to liftyourimpact.com/the book, scroll all the way down the page to the bottom, and you'll see you can get 25 pages for free, and we'll send those out to you. But for now, I've really enjoyed speaking with you all. Thank you for interacting. Thank you for playing along during today's session. If you have any questions, I'll be sticking around at the side of the stage for the next few minutes. But for now, I wanted to say thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you all very much.